This video was made for educational purposes only.
In the mid-70s, two middle school kids met at the American Martyrs Catholic School in Manhattan Beach, California, and hit it off straight away. Their names were Dave Nolte and Frank Nevada. Soon after, they decided to form a band together, with both of them on guitar, and Nevada decided on a name for them: Descendants. In 1977, Nevada met Bill Stevenson through Nolte, and they hit it off straight away. Soon after, the Descendants were formed, with Nolte on bass and vocals, Nevada on guitar, and Stevenson on drums. Nolte had since joined his brother's band, The Last, and when they began touring more extensively, he had no choice but to permanently leave the band. Soon after, Tony Lombardo joined the band in spite of being 18 years their senior. With this lineup, they recorded their first single, Ride the Wild. When they rehearsed, their friend Milo Goes, who was a huge fan of the band, would go to practices just to listen to them for hours. Eventually, he became the band's lead singer, which is probably the most important decision for the band their whole existence. Not only because they had found a great lead singer, but also because he would later become the inspiration for something that I'll touch upon in this video. Due to their huge intake in coffee, not even kidding, this is the reason why this happened, they started to play a more aggressive and faster style of music, much closer to hardcore punk. They released an incredibly short, fast, and frankly goofy EP called Fat in early 1982. Afterwards, they started slowing down a bit and created more well-structured and melodic songs. They were ready to record their first full-length record. That record became one of the most influential punk rock records of all time, Milo Goes to College. Named after the urge of their lead singer to go to college and study biology, something he had made clear from before even joining the band, Milo Goes to College is a perfect collage of all the things that went on to be essential to the development of the pop-punk sound, while being one of the greatest punk albums of all time in its own right, and its influence can be felt to this day. This record is beloved by many musicians, from Blink-182 to Dave Grohl to Fat Mike of NoFX, who cited it as his favorite album of all time, and took down boundaries set between genres that had no reason to be there in the first place. So, what makes this record as highly regarded as it is today? From my perspective, this is owed to three key components that this record has, which is what I'll discuss in this video. First of all, we've got its sound. The fact that I've named this video the record that is responsible for pop punk may have deceived you into thinking that Milo Goes to College is as pop punk as it gets, which is really not the case. What it is a noticeable departure from the hardcore style previously set by bands like The Germs, Black Flag, and the Dead Kennedys. The songs are still pretty damn short, with the record clocking in at just over 22 minutes. But most of them are way more melodic and less aggressive than their hardcore counterparts. This results in this album not being classified as hardcore punk per se, but as melodic hardcore. It's clear how some of the record's songs, like Catalina and Kabuki Girl, served as the first great blueprints to how to write catchy pop-punk melodies, blueprints which would later be used by bands such as Green Day, Blink-182, and The Offspring. To me, one of the preferable aspects of this record is how great these poppy hooks are balanced out by some of the more aggressive moments in the record, like on songs such as I'm Not a Loser, Parents, and Tony H. Another one is just how great the ideas on this record are. The bass riff on My Age to start the record is iconic by now, and the fiery guitars on Gene Is Dead are just incredible to listen to. A few minutes ago, I said that the addition of Milo was probably the most important decision the Descendants ever made as a band. not just because he was the lead singer, but because of his influence on something. Well, that something is, well, the band's whole image, to be fair. The caricature present on every Descendants record to date is of Milo. Initially hating it because it was a comic strip taunting him, Milo would later approve a version of it wearing his shirt and a tie, becoming the cover for the first record, because, well, he was going to college. It might seem silly to give this caricature so much importance and to state it was influential, but it actually was. At that time, the punk ethos was that of a scary and edgy individual, ripped clothes, leather jackets, all that shtick. This mascot was the complete opposite of it. This caricature, when associated to the album name, at the same time honestly represented and included the more disenfranchised punks, and stepped away from the hardcore tough guy image to create something more normal, and most importantly, something more relatable to a majority of people. And lastly, we come to the themes portrayed in this record. This is without question the element of this album that is the most influential in the creation of the pop-punk genre. There are a lot of different themes in this record, most of them influenced by how young the band were. They can be divided in a few categories. Firstly, we still got the more punky lyrics in terms of being a bit socially aware. My favorite example in this record is the song Statue of Liberty, where Frank Nevada goes on about the uselessness of having the Statue of Liberty in the United States, since it no longer abides by what the statue represents itself. A theme that certainly set them apart from their hardcore counterparts, however, is how they tackle conformity. Instead of loading it, they actually embrace it a lot throughout this record, on songs like I'm Not a Punk and Suburban Home, written by the older and more mature Tony Lombardo, which gave them a more reasonable and realistic appeal. Tony Lombardo stated afterwards that he wrote these types of songs since stability and structure were what he was looking for at that stage of his life, not living the hardcore lifestyle. The next theme is a theme that belongs to every pop-punk record that has ever existed. And that theme is the anger that this record contains, Frank Nevada being the one responsible for that characteristic. He was by all accounts the most insane member of the group. Even in the overly aggressive way he played the guitar, you can perfectly tell the level of bitterness and resentment which populated his mind, and consequently the band's sound as a whole. But isn't being angry punk? I hear you guys asking. What's new about that? The most common thing about punk is that it's angry and bitter against something. And you're right, but the thing that set Frank Nevada, his lyrics, and his melodies apart was not that he was angry, but what he was angry at. The largest focus of his lyrics wasn't on politics, but on being made fun of by other people and on being neglected by his parents, which you can tell by the songs I'm Not a Loser and Parents, which are probably the two darkest songs on the record. The first one shows his resentment towards people who made fun of him on a daily basis, simply because he was poor or came from a working class background. His resentment leads him to call out these people, calling them drug addicts who only attract women because they're rich. And the second one, Parents, is the stereotyped angsty teenage song, describing the unhealthy relationship that he had with his parents. This aggressiveness contributed massively to the sound of the record. And since this is the only record in which Frank Nevada participated in, one can wonder if the reason why it's still touted as the best Descendants record is because of his influence on its sound. The last theme I'd like to present is probably the most influential of them all, it being the inclusion of love songs. It wasn't the first time that they were included in punk music. The Buzzcocks beat him to it by about 5 years, but it was one of the first, if not the first instance of it appearing on hardcore music, and it made up a bulk of the record. My Age, Catalina, Kabuki Girl, Marriage, and the national anthem of melodic hardcore and most famous Descendants song to date, Hope, which funny enough was the only song entirely written by Milo Goes in the record. The lyrics of these songs are highly influential to pop punk. Hope in particular sets the standard for them. Being in love with a girl who only goes for guys who treat her badly and always comes back to you for comfort when she gets hurt by them, as you maintain the hope that you'll win her over one day. It's incredibly relatable, since almost everyone has been in a somewhat similar situation. The Descendants never made a record like Milo Goes to College again. This record was a perfect storm of rage, melody, and catchiness, and that was something that the Descendants could not ever replicate. After Milo's exit to the band to go to college, Nevada and Lombardo left the band, never again to come back as full-time members, marking the end of one of the best lineups in punk history, and a lineup responsible for one of its crowning jewels. So, what do you guys think? Do you agree with me? Tell me down in the comment section below what you think of this record, and like and subscribe for more related content. My name is Joe Fiki, and I'll see you next time with another video. Bye bye!